What happens when the line between performance and truth becomes so blurred that even the people living it cannot tell the difference? On a summer evening in Shanghai, beneath stage lights that burned like captured stars, actor Shu Kai dropped to one knee before Tan Songyun while their mothers watched from the wings, and millions of viewers around the world collectively held their breath. Was this the greatest performance of his career? Or had something far more profound just unfolded before our eyes? The moment lasted perhaps 30 seconds. 30 seconds that would ignite a firestorm across Asian entertainment media. 30 seconds that would be dissected frame by frame, analyzed by body language experts, debated in coffee shops from Beijing to Bangkok. But to understand why this single gesture carried such explosive weight, we must first journey back through years of whispered rumors, stolen glances, and a chemistry so undeniable that it became impossible to ignore. Shu Kai and Tan Songyun had been dancing around each other for nearly 3 years. Their first collaboration had been electric, the kind of on-screen pairing that producers dream about and audiences obsess over. When they looked at each other during filming, something intangible sparked in the air between them. Directors noticed it, crew members whispered about it, fans built entire communities around analyzing every micro-expression, every lingering touch that lasted a fraction of a second longer than the script required. But this is China's entertainment industry, where dating scandals can destroy careers overnight, where the machinery of fame demands that stars remain perpetually available in the fantasies of their followers. So Shu Kai and Tan Songyun did what countless others before them had done. They smiled for the cameras. They gave carefully worded interviews about their professional respect for each other. They maintained the performance even when the cameras supposedly stopped rolling. The denial became its own form of theater. Every public appearance together was scrutinized with forensic intensity. When they attended awards shows, fans would count the seconds of eye contact. When they posted on social media, investigators would analyze reflections in sunglasses, searching for evidence of shared locations. The more they insisted they were just friends, just colleagues, the more elaborate the theories became. It was a modern form of madness, this collective obsession. But it was a madness that had method, because everyone could sense that beneath the official story, something real was burning. Their mothers became unexpected players in this drama. In Chinese culture, the approval of family carries weight that Western audiences might struggle to fully comprehend. When both mothers began appearing together at events, when they were photographed laughing like old friends, when they started posting cryptic messages about happiness and destiny, the speculation reached peak fever. These were not the actions of families maintaining professional distance. These were the actions of families preparing to merge. The television special that would change everything was supposed to be a routine promotional event, a celebration of their latest drama, the kind of glossy, carefully orchestrated production that the industry manufactures with assembly line efficiency. The set was magnificent, all sweeping curtains and golden light designed to make everything look like a fairy tale. The audience was packed with devoted fans who had won lottery spots to attend. The script had been approved, rehearsed, timed down to the second. But scripts are fragile things. They exist in the realm of control, and human emotion has a way of obliterating control without warning. The show progressed as planned through its first segments. Shu Kai and Tan Songyun answered questions about their characters, shared amusing anecdotes from filming, played the games that these shows always feature. They were professional, charming, perfect. And then something shifted. Those watching closely would later identify the exact moment, a fleeting exchange of glances when Tan Songyun laughed at something her mother said from backstage, when Shu Kai looked at her with an expression that makeup and lighting could not manufacture, an expression that came from somewhere deeper than performance. The host was mid-sentence when Shu Kai stood up. It was not in the script. The host faltered, unsure whether this was improvisation or error. The audience sensed something was happening, that electric charge that fills the air before lightning strikes. Tan Songyun turned to look at him, confusion flickering across her face. And in that confusion was something else, something that looked like hope struggling against fear of disappointment. He walked to the center of the stage. He took a breath that the microphones caught, that reverberated through speakers and into living rooms across Asia. And then he dropped to one knee. The audience erupted, not in celebration, not yet, but in shock, in the explosive release of witnessing the impossible. Songyun brought her hands to her mouth, her eyes filled with tears that cameras would capture in excruciating detail. From the wings, both mothers appeared, as if summoned by some invisible signal, and the presence of family transformed the moment from spectacle into ceremony. What Shu Kai said in those moments has been translated 1,000 different ways, filtered through languages and cultural contexts, until the precise words almost do not matter. He spoke of time and certainty. He spoke of pretending for so long that he had almost forgotten what truth felt like. He spoke of their mothers watching them dancing around each other for years, offering knowing smiles while the whole world speculated. He spoke of being tired of the performance, of wanting reality even if it meant risking everything they had built. And then he asked the question that millions had been waiting years to hear. Songyun stood frozen. Later, she would describe those seconds as feeling like hours, as if time had fractured and expanded, giving her space to live several lifetimes in the span between his question and her answer. She looked at her mother. She looked at his mother. She looked at the cameras and the audience and the entire machinery of fame that had demanded they remain strangers playing lovers. She said yes, but it was how she said it that mattered, not with the breathless excitement of a scripted proposal, not with the theatrical gasp of a performer hitting their mark. She said yes with her whole body, collapsing into the answer, as if the word had been locked inside her for so long that its release left her boneless with relief. She reached for him and he stood, and they held each other while the world watched and wondered and tried to determine if this was the greatest love story of the decade or the most audacious publicity stunt ever conceived. The debate began before the broadcast even ended. Social media platforms crashed under the weight of millions posting simultaneously. Hashtags trended globally within minutes. Entertainment reporters scrambled to get statements from representatives, from network executives, from anyone who might provide clarity. But clarity was nowhere to be found, because the principals themselves had vanished immediately after the show, spirited away by vehicles with tinted windows, leaving only questions in their wake. The analysis became its own industry. Body language experts appeared on news programs, playing the footage in slow motion, highlighting the dilation of pupils, the authenticity of micro-expressions, the way their hands found each other with the ease of long familiarity. Relationship psychologists weighed in on the risks of such public declarations, on the pressure it would create, on whether love could survive when millions claimed ownership of it. Cultural critics examined what this meant for Chinese entertainment, whether this represented a shift toward authenticity or simply a more sophisticated form of performance. Their mothers, those unexpected architects of this moment, gave a joint interview 3 days later. They spoke of watching their children struggle under the weight of public expectation. They described private dinners where Chi Kai and Songyun would sit close but not too close, would laugh at each other's jokes with carefully measured enthusiasm, would leave in separate cars despite living in the same direction. The mothers spoke of their own friendship, forged in the recognition that their children had found something rare, something worth protecting even from the machinery that had made them famous. The mothers confirmed what everyone had suspected, but no one could prove. The relationship was real. It had been real for years. The proposal was not a stunt. It was a liberation. But here is where the story becomes more complex, because in revealing the truth, they had also transformed it. The private romance, once confirmed, became public property in ways they could not have fully anticipated. Every date was now photographed, every interaction analyzed. Their engagement became a narrative that millions felt entitled to shape, to comment upon, to treat as communal entertainment rather than personal experience. Became a subject of national interest. Rumors placed it everywhere, from intimate countryside ceremonies to spectacular productions in European castles. Designers claimed to have been contacted about dresses. Venues denied and confirmed bookings in the same breath. The machinery of celebrity, once defied by that proposal, reasserted itself with renewed vigor. But something had fundamentally changed. Other celebrity couples began acknowledging relationships more openly, citing Shu Kai and Songyun as inspiration. The old rules, which had demanded pristine separation between personal life and public image, began to feel antiquated. The proposal had not just revealed a relationship, it had challenged an entire system. Critics argued that this was merely the evolution of performance, that authenticity itself had become the most marketable commodity. They suggested that the proposal was genuine in emotion, but calculated in execution, a way to control narrative while appearing to surrender control. They pointed to increased endorsement deals, to renewed interest in their previous work together, to the way their realness had become a brand more valuable than any manufactured image could be. Perhaps they were right. Perhaps in our modern age there is no such thing as a purely private moment for public figures. Perhaps every gesture, no matter how heartfelt, becomes performance by virtue of being witnessed. But standing in opposition to this cynicism were those 30 seconds of footage, replayed endlessly, analyzed frame by frame, in Songyun's tears, in Shu Kai's trembling hands, in the way their mothers smiled with the complicated joy of parents watching children take irrevocable steps. Many saw something that transcended calculation. The truth, as is so often the case, likely resides somewhere between these extremes. The proposal was both authentic and aware of its audience, both spontaneous and inevitable, both liberation and constraint. Shu Kai and Songyun had spent years navigating the impossible space between private feeling and public scrutiny. The proposal did not resolve that tension, it simply made the struggle visible. Today, their relationship continues to fascinate precisely because it embodies this fundamental modern paradox. In an age where every moment can be captured, shared, and analyzed, what does intimacy even mean? When millions of people feel invested in your happiness, does that support you or suffocate you? When the performance of life becomes indistinguishable from life itself, where do we locate authenticity? These questions extend far beyond two Chinese actors. They speak to the condition of existence in our hyper-connected age, where privacy is increasingly theoretical, where the boundaries between public and private have become porous to the point of dissolution. We are all, in our own ways, performing for audiences now, curating our lives for consumption, trying to maintain some core of private truth while navigating the demands of visibility. What made that proposal so captivating was not just that it was romantic or dramatic or surprising, it was that it represented a choice to prioritize felt experience over managed image, to risk the chaos of authenticity over the safety of performance. Whether that choice was wise, whether it will lead to happiness or regret, remains to be seen. The story is still being written, still unfolding in real time before audiences that will never stop watching. But for 30 seconds on a summer evening in Shanghai, Shu Kai and Songyun stepped outside the carefully constructed narrative that had defined them. They made something private public by choice rather than exposure. They claimed their own story, even knowing that in telling it they were giving it away. And in that moment of impossible vulnerability, they gave voice to something that millions feel but struggle to express. The desire to be seen truly, the hope that love might survive scrutiny, the belief that beneath all the performance, something real and worth protecting still exists. The cameras are still rolling, they will always be rolling now. But when Songyun said yes, when their mothers stepped forward in blessing, when the audience erupted in recognition of witnessing something genuine, the script was abandoned in favor of something more precious and more dangerous, the truth. Messy and complicated and impossible to control, the truth. And that, perhaps more than any fairy tale ending, is what makes their story worth telling.